All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're moving on to 2.1.2. How can I rewrite a decimal? Lesson 2.1.1, we worked with different fractions and found ways to rewrite those fractions as repeating and terminating decimals. In this lesson, we're going to reverse our thinking and instead we'll represent decimals as fractions. So sometimes kids get a little frustrated with me because I don't use the word number, but instead I use value. And that this is the reason why. We have up here where we have a fraction, and then we also have this representations of a portion, the decimal equivalent. So they have the same value. There's not the same digits there, not the same numerals. However, they have the same value because if I had 1/2 right here, my decimal here is not going to have a 1 and a 2 in it. Rather, it's going to be 5/10 or 50/100. And then my percent, in contrast, also is going to have some different numbers in it, or it's going to look different than either one of these are going to do, depending upon how I go about it. Now, one of the things that's important with a representation of a portion too, fiddlesticks, is that you have to put the words, so you put it in word form or pictures in the center. So I just wanted to remind you of what these parts are here. So last time in the last problem, we went from a fraction right here to a decimal. But now we're going to go the other direction. We're going to go this way instead. Actually, we're going to kind of do all of them. But here we go. Let's just do this. So we have 2-18. It says complete the representations of a portions web for each number below. An example for 2/3, the one that we just did on the previous problem in the previous lesson, but it's shown it right. So we have right here where we have our fraction, which is 2/3. They have it right here in written form of 2/3. If I was to divide 2 by 3, I get 0 6/10 repeating. And then over here we have our 66 because we would have multiplied this by 100 with our 2 remainder and 3 over the top, or in groups of 3 because we're dividing by 3. Excuse me. We have 66. I would rather have 66.7 or 66 7/10, but they chose to keep it in a fractional form. Good news, the ones that we have today, you don't have a fraction, so that's good to know. So we're going to start right here. Ooh, I really like this little spotlight, except for that my pointer's right over the top, but we have 7/10. So right here, I have my 7/10. Some kids today told me that they couldn't see this 7/10, but I promise it's 7/10. So when I do this, when I go from my fraction right here, I usually go down to my decimal first. And the reason why is because it tells me what it is. 7/10. 7/10. 7/10. So I have right here my decimal, a really big decimal, and 7, because I had kids tell me they couldn't see that today too. So I have 7/10 right here. Now I can either multiply to get here, or I can multiply to go this direction here. I prefer, since I have 10 as my denominator, I'm going to multiply by a giant 1 to get to 100. So I ask myself, what times 10 gives me 100? So in this case, it is 10. Because it's a giant 1, I need to have the same number in both my numerator and my denominator. So I have 10/10. Now I'm going to multiply 7 times 10, and I get 70/100. A percent, per means each. Centa, like century, centimeters, cents means 100. So this right here is 70%. I can't forget my dude in the middle right here. I personally don't care to draw 7/10. I would rather write it. So that's how I do that one. So what I want you to do now that we did this one together is I want you to pause the video and I would like for you to try Bravo. Go ahead and do that now. Stop the video. I'll wait. Hi, you're back. Here we go. So we have this decimal right here. And if I read that decimal aloud, it's going to give me a couple of hints of things. So what I see right here is I have 0 and 7,500. 0 and 7,500. 0 and 7,500. So I have 7,500 hundredths right there. Because I have 7,500 hundredths right here, I don't even have to do any extra math. I've got 75% because my denominator is 100. And then in here, I'm going to either write it out or draw a picture of it. So we're going to move on to Charlie, ladies and gentlemen. So we have this where it's in word form right here. We've got my word form. So remember, our fraction goes up here, the decimal goes right here, and the percentage goes right here. So I want you to stop the video right now and try to do this one by yourself as much as you can, please. Go. I have 3/5. I'm going to do the same thing that we did up here, where I want to make it so that I have it over 100. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 3/5. I'm going to multiply it by a giant 1. And I want to have 100 as my denominator. So I have 5 times something gives me 100. They're $20 bills. So now I have my giant 1 right here. So I need to ask myself, 3 times 20 is what? Well, I know that 3 times 2 is 6. So 3 times 20 would be 60. So now I have 60 hundredths, which means I have 60% right here. And again, if I say this aloud, 60 hundredths, 60 hundredths, 60 hundredths, 60 hundredths. Now, if you're a student who saw earlier with this and you changed it to tenths, you might have gotten 6/10. That works too. It's totally equivalent. Echo says, with your team, that's you and me, explain how you rewrote 75 hundredths as a fraction in B. Is there more than one way? So let's look. So right here in B, we have 75 hundredths. Was there another way that you could have written this? If we look right here, what does that look like to you? I see quarters. How many quarters is that? That would be 3/4. 3/4. Oh, 3/4. Some students I saw in their paper today had that on there. So we're going to write down here in Echo, right here, 75 hundredths could also be written as 3/4. And we know this because 75 cents out of $1 is 3/4. So you could have either reduced the fraction or see it as money. That's a little better. So again, I look at this and I see money. But again, I absolutely could have taken that. Let's do that right here. 75 hundredths and divided it by a giant 1 and had, oh golly, I really did not give myself enough room, did I? 25 and 25. So 75 divided by 25, or what times 25 gives me 75? And that would be 3. I've got 100 divided by 25, or 25 times what gives me 100? And that would be my quarter. Sorry for smooshing it. So we're going to go on to, oh, how long is my video right now? Let's see. Because we don't want it to be too long. I don't even see that on here. That is crazy. They've got a new version, and I'm totally unfamiliar with it. It looks totally different to me. Huh. Anyway, I guess we'll keep going, and hopefully it's not a crazy banana long video, but we'll roll with it. So we're at 219 right here. That's actually the last problem in this notebook. So hopefully we'll be able to finish this on Friday and get it all finished up. So here we go. 219 says, since 0 and 7/10 is described in words as 7/10, it's not a surprise that the equivalent fraction is 7/10. Says that you're going to get some decimal cards. I'll have decimal cards in the classroom. I'm certainly not going to give them to you at home. But you're going to use the list below to complete the following tasks. Use the names of the fractions like 23 hundredths to rewrite each terminating decimal as a fraction. First, try to know what you know about place value to write the fraction. Then, with a calculator, we're going to check to see if the fraction is equal to the decimal. So here we go. I wrote all of these down already on your notebook for you. You're welcome. And here we go. So we're going to read this guy aloud. So I see 0 and 19 hundredths. So I see 19 hundredths, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my calculator and check to see if when I take 19 and I divide it by 100, do I get that decimal? So I need to stop this so I can grab one because I was not prepared for this part of the lesson. Hold on just a second. All right, I got one. Here we go. So here is, oops, let's make sure it's in screen. So we have 19 divided by 100 equals, oh look, it's right. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, that's what I want you to do. I want you to pause the video right now. And then I want for you to try to do Bravo through Foxtrot, do your best, and then come back and check your answers. Do that now. Hi there, you're back again. Here we go. So I see this is a tenth spot, this is the hundredths, this is the thousandths. So I know for a fact, because it's in the thousandth spot, I'm going to have 1,000 as my denominator. So my numerator, though, is going to be the rest of these numbers. So I have 391 thousandths. Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. 1,000. This one usually is tricky for students because we've got that 0 right here, but as a reminder, it's always wherever that last digit ends, that place value. So again, we've got tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So I have 19 thousandths, like this. This one right here, I have tenths. So 3/10, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. And it's 524. Let's double check.